and, aspirations for what the future is going to look like with this new, creature that's coming into the world. And then you go through the birth process and, some of it is painful. It doesn't, necessarily feel good all the way through. But in that instant, when that baby breaks through and is born into the world, it's like time literally stands still. And the awe, the sheer just awe, amazement, wonder in that moment, it's you can't even put it into words. You can't articulate it. And it's like that with my clients. And it's something that never gets old. I see myself in my clients. I see the potential of humanity, right? Collectively in my clients, I really get in touch with what life is all about. It's a great reminder of what life really is about, who people really are underneath all of the, labels and stuff that we project onto other people, opinions and judgments of that. And the beautiful thing that I really love about the work that I do is I find that, I could be working with a woman who maybe she's, just starting her career and moving out into the world all the way up. And she's from an urban community all the way up to, a CEO of a big Fortune 500 company, white male, totally different background from me. And the beautiful thing is I always find that no matter what, there's the common thread of humanity that we are all fundamentally the same. And that is so beautiful to me. I tell people all the time, the reason why I've dedicated my life to transformation and communication, because it's the one bridge I found that connects everyone across all communities, all genres, all genders, all political classes, you name it. It breaks every barrier down and it gets to the core of who we are. And that is a human being.
You could not have answered that question in a more perfect way. You could not have answered that in a more perfect way. I love how you bridge the transformation and communication. And those are key things in life as we evolve as humans. And oftentimes communication is the biggest area of challenge for a lot of people. For the listening audience that are out there and moms that may have therapists, but may have been interested in working with the coach to attain short-term, long-term goals, life-term goals. And there may be a little bit of fear involved and they don't know how to go about choosing that relationship. What would be your piece of advice for the listening audience of the moms and the women that are out there that want to really work with a coach? Because I've heard it recently. Oh gosh, I wish I would have had a coach a year ago or 2 years ago. Who knows where I would be now? But now is the time, I believe. And nothing is by coincidence, but divine providence and divine assignment, as you mentioned, as we were in the green room. So what would be a piece of advice for those who have a little bit of fear in regards to building and connecting and partnering with the coach so that they could move forward in transformation?
Yeah, I would say number one, fear is natural and normal. It's a part of the human experience and it can be a great teacher. Whenever I feel fear, whenever I experience, uncertainty, unknown, I'm, hesitant about something, I've learned to become very curious about that. I've learned to practice not pushing myself through the fear, but sitting with it, feeling my way through it, and asking myself empowering questions about it.
I love that.
Why am I feeling this? What about this, gives me concern? What scenarios am I playing out that, I think might be, worst case scenarios. And then I challenge myself to think of the opposite. if I can think of the worst case scenario, oh, this may not work out. Oh, I don't want to share myself. Oh, maybe I don't have the money. We spend so much time sometimes focusing on the worst case scenario, which is fine. But what if we spent an equal amount of time focusing on the best case scenario? And so I like to do that. I like to journal about that. And then I like to see where that line of thinking takes me. And a lot of the times, most of the time, pretty much all the time, that line of thinking puts me on a different track. It moves me from being on what I call a fear-based track of thinking and being into more of a place of understanding why I feel a certain way, understanding what my concerns and, potential areas of caution are. And then that helps me, number one, feel better and puts me into a position of power to take inspired action, right? Conscious action. Now, does that mean that I would actually go out and do the thing? Maybe, maybe not. But I'm operating more from a place of understanding from a place versus a place of fear, if that makes sense.
It does. Absolutely. I was going through lots of amazing information. So please, everyone that's listening, go on Tiana's website. She has so much information there that will transform your life in a way that I picked up something I want to share that I discovered on your website. And it talked about, I know we're almost at the close of our 30-minute segment, but I would like for you to share a little bit about this piece of an article you had on your website. And it talked about tips to recover from burnout. And if you could share, because so many moms, we know that they're like, oh God, I'm burned out. And they may spend the day at the spa and come out of the spa and still feel like, oh, that didn't do it. And I spent $200, $300, right? What are those steps? A few of them, you don't have to share all of them. But when I read them, I was like, whoa, this is amazing. And so if you could share a few of those steps to help avoid burnout, that would be awesome.
Yeah, so I think, this is an important conversation because there's a lot of fatigue, exhaustion, particularly among women, around doing life the way that we've been doing it for so long, right? I think we can all agree that collectively we are looking for new ways, begging, crying out, demanding new ways of doing not just work, but life in general. And so I think that the most important thing is to first just acknowledge that. And I always tell my clients that self-care is great, but self-care ain't just going to the spa or, having a girl's day or, things like that, going to get a mani-pedi. Self-care is, number one, discipline that doesn't cut corners. And I think that many of us today, particularly working women, working mothers, we're very strategic with our time already. For the most part, we're set up, we're organized as much as we can. We know what's good for us, what is not good for us. And as life starts lifing, we start letting a lot of things that we know are good habits for us fall to the wayside. So again, self-care, my definition of it, is actually discipline that doesn't cut corners. So there's certain non-negotiables in my life, right? Things that I will not sacrifice, things that I'm not willing to cut corners around. It doesn't matter who it is. My kids know this. And this is meditation. I'm going to have my meditation time. My journaling, I'm going to have my journaling time. Why? Because those things lift me up. They fill up my cup and they put me in a position to be able to pour out into others. So I'm very disciplined and routine around that, my exercise, things like that. I'm also very disciplined at just saying no. When I am overwhelmed, when I am, at my wit's end and I'm burning the candles at both ends, as much as I want to take my kid to the park, as much as I want to, do this thing for a friend, as much as I want to take a client on Saturdays because that's the only time that they have to meet with me, I've become really disciplined around saying no when I need to. And I think that because of a lot of the programming we have, a lot of the pressure we put on ourselves, and let's just be honest, as women, as mothers, we want to do a lot of these things. And to be honest, it's actually, and I'm going to go out and say, it's actually dangerous for us to keep operating that way and not starting to exercise our power to say no.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
And the last thing I would say, and this is a big one, because it can be counterintuitive, and that's varying the pace at which we work. So I'll give you an example. The past week, I haven't been working that much. I haven't been working, I haven't been seeing as many clients. I have, proposals and other things that, I need to get out. And I'm sure you can resonate with this as an entrepreneur. When you have opportunities, you are trained to seize the opportunity right today,
absolutely.
Not tomorrow. Yes. And I've had to learn to move at my own pace, to really honor my body's natural energetic rhythms. I work a lot with my clients around understanding and learning and practicing managing their energy so that you can show up consistently without all of that overwhelm and being burnt out. So what I have been doing more of is sleeping late, sleeping past 7 o'clock, which is, I'm normally up by 5 or 6 a.m. Going to bed earlier, closing the laptop and saying, you know what, this can work tomorrow, or this can be done tomorrow, instead of doing 5 or 6 things, doing one thing. And guess what? Taking naps during the day. And what I've noticed about that, number one, you have to move through sometimes the uncomfortability around that because we're so programmed to believe that everything has to happen now. If we're not doing something, we're not being productive. Releasing, letting go, honoring your body's rhythms, honoring your intuitive hits around, I really don't want to be doing this right now, so I'm not going to force myself to do it, is super, super important. And sometimes when you have 10 million things to do at work, 10 million things to do at home, it can be a scary feeling to do that, but it's something you really want to lean into.
That's powerful. That is powerful. So we're just about time to wrap. And if we could look through the scope of future. Well, I know we have the book coming out soon, Inside Out. What do you see through the prophetic scope of time and destiny coming up in the next maybe 3 to 5 years for Tiana Louise?
Do I get to vision for myself right now? Next 3 to 5 years. In the next 3 to 5 years, I will have touched, moved, and inspired at least 10 million women.
I love that.
Transforming how they see themselves, how they speak about themselves, how they show up in any room, and how they operate in the world. In the next 3 to 5 years, I will have also transformed more leaders of Fortune 500 companies and coached them and consulted with them to help them shift the environments that they are working in and the environments that they are creating for their employees. So another thing, part of the reason why I left the workplace is because it just was not a good place for me, quite honestly. Sure, I was going through a lot of things, but if I were to be honest, it was an environment that I showed up to every day. And long story short, it was toxic. And I don't think this is anything that was unique to me. We're reading about it every day. And I really, really believe that for any company that is,